So, Brother Kyle Pacey is going to start us off with a song, and then we will get the ceremony going as soon as he's done his first song. So thanks for coming, and as you continue to get seated, feel free to listen. Brother. So to get things started, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Anthony Marco. I'm the president of Labour Council here in Hamilton. And I would, first of all, if you are long-time attenders of this Day of Mourning, thank you for coming yet again. If this is your first time here, thank you for coming out for the first time, because I think when people come out to this and they kind of feel the import and the gravitas that a ceremony like this has, they tend to come back. And it's great that we can have people here who've been here a long time and people who are coming here for a first time as well. So the way that it normally goes is we will have our ceremony here inside, and then at the end of that, we will give you a cue and ask you to make your way downstairs, and we will follow a piper outside to the monument, and we will have people be laying their wreaths outside by the monument. We will have a moment of silence inside when we ring the bells to remember, and we will have a moment of silence outside, and the piper can help us along with that as well. So that's the method we're going to be doing. After we finish outside, if you'd like to come back inside for a beverage and a snack, you can do that as well. So we would encourage you to certainly do that. I'd like to start by recognizing that we are in the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit and the homelands of the Haudenosaunee. And this is an important year that not only our sisters and brothers in the steelworkers will recognize, but also that all Labour recognizes. And this is the 25th anniversary of the West Ray disaster. I'd like to spend a bit of time in my opening remarks talking a little bit about this, because this is a case where not only do you have a disaster happens, which not only impacts workers across this country, and certainly a specific union, but all workers across this country, but the impact on a community that this has, even to this day, if you imagine this generation of workers who was lost to that community, it was absolutely devastating. We are remembering those today, and we're remembering some of the other 1,000 workers that are killed on the job in Canada every year, and thousands more who are seriously injured. When criminal negligence results in a worker's death, it's a crime, it's not an accident. On May 9, 1992, an explosion at the Westray mine in Pictou County, Nova Scotia, killed all 26 miners working underground that fateful morning. It was one of the deadliest mining disasters in Canadian history and led to new criminal code provisions known as the Westray Law that finally made it possible to prosecute corporate criminal negligence. But there's a problem with that. Many workplace fatalities are still never properly investigated, and only a handful have resulted in criminal charges. We are going to, in our later in the program, when we read out the names, we are going to recall the workers who were lost on that day 25 years ago and remember them as we would remember them as though they passed this past year, because 25 years is certainly something that we wish to mark, and we certainly remember them by. The federal government is committed to working with the Canadian Labour Congress and its members and employers and provincial and territorial partners to do more to ensure that labour inspectors and law enforcement officials are properly trained in the provisions of the law and are coordinating effectively to ensure that the possibility of a charge for criminal negligence resulting in serious injury or death is not overlooked. And they are promising to help share best practices in investigating workplace fatalities across federal, provincial and territorial jurisdictions. And all we can say is, those of us who are activists in this room, those of us who are labor people in this room, our responsibility is to hold our elected representatives and to hold people responsible to doing that, to making sure that they follow the law. It is the law. Follow the law, because it's being ignored far too many times. There is a CLC petition which is online right now, and if you haven't filled it in, I would encourage you to fill it in. It's called rememberwestray.ca. And it calls on all the provinces and territories to work with the federal government on an urgent action plan that includes training and directing Crown prosecutors to apply the Westray provisions of the Criminal Code, appointing dedicated prosecutors for workplace health and safety fatalities and training and directing police to apply Westray provisions of the Criminal Code, and ensuring that regulators, police and Crown attorneys are coordinating. Health and safety regulators must be reaching out to police when Westray charges might be warranted. It seems like every year we have an anniversary of something with regards to worker deaths. And it is good to remember these things, because if we don't remember them, then we are prone to falling into the same traps all over again. I am happy to say that on a year-by-year basis, if you ask the people who organize this ceremony every year, we are noticing less and less local names to read off on our own lists. But that doesn't mean that the fatalities aren't happening, because we know as well as you do. We follow every single day in the paper, and every time I see a worker death that happens in the Hamilton area, I make sure that I flag it and I share it through our social media and let people know. But oftentimes now, the names don't get mentioned because the deaths get reported so early that the names aren't attached, because they want to inform loved ones and they want to inform family members. And oftentimes, unless an investigation happens, that person's name doesn't come to the forefront again. So we know that there have been deaths in the Hamilton area this year. We know there have been. The trouble is, we don't know their names. So in addition to the names that we read out today, I would like you to try and remember some of the people who have died, and there have been plenty who have died on the job this year in Hamilton, or been injured on the job this year. Remember those whose names we don't have in front of us. And if we get those names in the future, we will certainly read them out next year, because it is sometimes tough to track those names down, and we hope that we can. Before we move on and recognize and have a couple of speakers, I want to recognize some of our federal and provincial representatives who have shown up here today. MPPs Monique Taylor and Paul Miller, thank you certainly for being here. And members of Parliament, Scott Duvall, Dave Christopherson, and Bob Bertina, thank you for being here as well. Those last three are the three that you visit to make sure Westray gets on the right track again. So book your appointments and get into those offices as quickly as possible, if I can be political for a moment. We also have, I know that School Board Trustee Alex Johnstone is here, and I apologize if I missed any of the other trustees as well. In a second, I'm going to be asking His Honor Fred Eisenberger to come up and bring greetings from the city, and he will certainly let you know of some of his councillors who have attended here as well. Today, even though we think of this as a solemn event, this is an opportunity, I will certainly not say to celebrate, but certainly to appreciate a sense of solidarity that happens today. You would come out of this event every year with a renewed will and a renewed purpose to get back and fight these things. And it's a shame that it has to take one day every year to kind of re-energize us, but we know we get caught up in a whole bunch of other things. But if we can use this as kind of one of those energizing factors to get us going again on health and safety and making sure that everybody comes home from work safe, it is probably a good thing. With that, I'd like to introduce Mayor Fred Eisenberger to come up and bring greetings from the city. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, and welcome all. And I do want to acknowledge I'm here with Councillor Sam Marula, Councillor Doug Connolly, Councillor Maria Pearson, and back up there, Councillor Matthew Green. Thank you and welcome. Hoping that an LRT won't break out right when we're here today. But we are reminded that today is April 28th, and the Safety and Vigilance on the Job Memorial Day, and when we've lowered our flags here at City Hall to acknowledge the loss of many Canadians throughout Canada over this past year in the workplace, and certainly the presence of families reminds us that, notwithstanding our common zest for life, that can be snatched out very quickly without due diligence and vigilance in the workplace. So. I'll just be brief and say that in a moment of solemnity and quiet, we affirm our commitment to ensuring safe and healthy occupational practices in workplaces for all. That's the very least that we need to continue to do, both as a city, as a provincial government, as a federal government, and everyone that employs people in our country. So thank you all for being here, and it's also always a sad day to memorialize people that we've lost. But it's an important day because remembering that, we can certainly put practices in place that prevents that from happening in the future. Thank you all very much. Have a good day.
Thank you. And I know he's around somewhere, so I apologize I can't see him, but I believe I would like to invite up, we have a very active in the city Hamilton District Injured Workers Group. And I know oftentimes at this ceremony we talk about fatalities on the job, but we miss a huge chunk of the people who get injured on the job as well. So I think Brother Carl Creever is around somewhere, so I would certainly invite him up if he wishes to say a few words on behalf of the Hamilton District Injured Workers Group.
First of all, I want to thank the invitation to come up and speak. It was some very short notice. I've been involved with our community here for over 30 years with what's happening in health and safety and the injured workers in our community as well as across the province. I also represent Ontario on the national scale, the Canadian Injured Workers Alliance. What we're seeing as injured workers across this nation, not just in Hamilton, is the horrendous fatality rates that still continue to go on. We're very, very worried, particularly amongst our young workers that are new workers that are coming into the workforce. And that cannot be tolerated anymore. I know when we talk about increasing the inspectors, we also know that the inspectors that we have in Ontario are limited in carrying out their duties. They must have more authority to go into a workplace and lay charges. If charges need to be laid, they have to lay the charges. Maybe that's the only way we can get answers and the reduction in the fatalities that are happening in our workplaces today. We see a lot that's going on. Not just in Ontario, across Canada, but also in the United States and around the world, of health and safety legislation that's being attacked throughout the world. That just means that there is going to be more fatalities which cannot be tolerated, and we as the citizens of this community must speak out, along with our politicians, our partners in the labor community, much more forcefully than what we have before. There are too many workers that are being killed in the workplace, and that just cannot be tolerated. Again, I thank you for the opportunity to say a few words. And I can assure you that the injured workers in this province, as well as across Canada, will continue to fight hard to eliminate fatalities in the workplace. Thank you for coming.
At this time, I would like to invite Brother Pacey back up to perform another song for us, a song that I think you'll all recognize. And when we consider that our next speaker, which is coming up, one of the topics she's going to be talking about is domestic violence and how it comes into the workplace, perhaps you'll realize that there is some significance to the song and maybe think about it in a new way. So, Brother Pacey, I'll pass it back over to you.
I miss my mother and dad. See, I'm on my own behind the lab. I first heard this song when I went to Skyway Bridge Festival 72 with my dad, telling me I was going to Los Angeles to be a rock star. Let me tell you about that later. Anyways, this is such a good song. Sunshine where she's gone, only darkness every day. Ain't no sunshine where she's gone, she's always gone too long. Anytime she goes away, won't know this time where she's gone.
So to introduce our main speaker for this afternoon, Aaron Harrison is the Director of CLC Ontario. The CLC, for those of you who don't know, is the Canadian Labour Congress and is the umbrella group that represents unions all across this country. One of the main focuses that the CLC has been focusing on for not only this day of mourning, which includes Westray, but on a prolonged basis has included not only violence in the workplace, but domestic violence and how domestic violence can make its way into the workplace. We know here in Ontario that we've had law changes that have happened on the basis of some of those incidences over the past couple of years. So I would invite Sister Erin Harrison to come up and say a few words and bring greetings from the CLC as well. Sister.
Hello, everyone. Thank you to all of you, first and foremost, for being here. It's a great turnout, a great community you all live in, but this means the world that everyone is here on April 28th, day of mourning, to remember that last year there was over 1,000 workers that were killed on the job in this country that we all enjoy, and that's shameful. That's shameful. So I thank Anthony at the helm of the HGLC, but I also thank the very important work of the Day of Mourning Committee of the Hamilton and District Labour Council for putting on this very, very important event each and every year to remember those that shouldn't have lost their job, shouldn't have been killed on the job, or shouldn't have been injured, as was just mentioned. The committee specifically emailed me and asked to talk about an issue that's near and dear to my heart, and then that's the issue of domestic violence, but specifically this day of mourning, how domestic violence follows those to work. And you might ask, well, what is the definition of domestic violence? But before I tell you what the definition, in our terms of the definition is, I wanted to just say that what I tell you today may be triggering. So if anyone needs to leave at any time, please feel free to do so. Domestic violence is an issue that touches many of us, and I'm sure many of us in this room. So the CLC's definition of domestic violence is this. Domestic violence is any form of physical, sexual, emotional, or psychological abuse, including financial control, stalking, and harassment. It occurs between opposite sex or same-sex intimate partners who may or may not be married, common law, or living together. It can also continue to happen after a relationship has ended. And domestic violence, we know, happens all across all social classes. It happens in all cultures, faiths, and religions. It happens to people with disability. It happens in same-sex relationships. It happens in all types of workplaces, no matter where we work. And perpetrators can be respected and very well-regarded people. And I think more recently we've heard of some of those cases in the mainstream media. Because sometimes people in position of power utilize that power for their wrong use. So what we found at the CLC is we knew quickly, we were hearing reports in our workplaces that domestic violence and violence in the workplace was happening at a very, very rapid rate. But unions and workplaces weren't apt and weren't armed in order to deal with those issues. So what the CLC did is we did some research, and we quickly found that domestic violence is a very tricky subject because it's not properly reported in our country. And we looked to our trade union partners across the globe and asked them how they actually found out what the statistics were on how many cases of domestic violence were occurring in their countries. And we learned from our friends in Australia that in order to find proper statistics on domestic violence, they had to create a survey and disseminate it through their whole country and get the results themselves. So the CLC in 2014 2014, we underwent a project that did exactly that. We conducted a survey. We sent that survey out to union members, but also non-union members, and anyone over the age of 15 years old to fill out. And the responses were staggering. We got 8,400 responses in a very, very short period of time. And today I want to share some of those staggering results and statistics that we found through our study that actually Western University, our partner in this, is utilizing within the classrooms today at their center around women's issues. And some of those statistics are currently today, there's 7% women that are currently experiencing domestic violence. There's 4.1% of men that experience domestic violence and 29.7% of trans people. Over a lifetime, women specifically will experience domestic violence, and that's 37.6% of the female population will experience domestic violence. Just to put that into an equation, that's 1/3 of all women in our country will experience some form of domestic violence within their lifetime. That's shameful. That's shameful. And it's an epidemic in our country. We know that domestic violence is a health and safety issue. It's a health and safety issue because it follows people to work. And it compromises not only their safety, but it compromises safety of all of our coworkers within the workplace. We know that, yes, men experience domestic violence, but our survey and all the statistics, even from Stats Canada, shows that it greatly, women experience it at a higher rate than men, at a drastically higher rate than men. So what we say is we can't change what we don't name. So that's why you hear that we name domestic violence against women, and we say it out loud because it is an epidemic in our country. If 1/3 of women experience domestic violence in their lifetime, that's an epidemic, and we need to name that epidemic. We know that there's 3 types of domestic violence. The first one is situational couple violence. The second one is violent resistance. And the third and most prominent is coercive control. We know that domestic violence is a misconception. Everyone refers to it as the private issue not to be talked about. But we know by doing that, we actually make it an invisible issue. If we're not able to talk about domestic violence, it actually makes it an issue that's not invisible. So that's why the trade union movement in this country is talking about the issue, is training our unions and frontline staff to be able to deal with the issue of domestic violence. Within our survey that we conducted, some of the stats are clear. 38% of those that filled in our survey reported it affected their work or their ability to work effectively. 53.5% experienced domestic violence while they were in the workplace or near the workplace. 81.9% again said it negatively impacted the work of themselves but also others around them. And 37.1% again said that their coworkers knew about it, knew that domestic violence was happening to them when it was happening. And 43.3% discussed it with someone at work as opposed to someone in their personal lives back at home. Our workplaces should be our safe space. Our workplaces should be where we get the supports that we need, and that's why this is so important. So today, I wanted to say that everyone has a role to play in this room. Whether you're currently working on the issue of domestic violence or not, every single person has a role to play because every single person in this room today knows someone that is either experiencing or has experienced domestic violence within their lifetime. So make sure to open up, make sure to ask those questions, make sure to talk about it, make sure to get it out there in the open and find those people people's supports if they need it. Today, what I did is and Jillian was helping me put out across the room, is we have some flyers and brochures. We've created an online resource center, and the website for that online resource center is domesticviolenceatwork.ca. These brochures are also available, which contain posters to post up in all of your workplaces. Please get the information out there and take the time to help us work on domestic violence. If you're interested, we have lots of training module to train you and your membership back in your workplaces, both unionized and non-unionized. I'm happy to talk about that after the ceremony here today. Thanks again for being here, everyone.
So in a minute, we're going to be reading out some of the names. Before that, we're going to have one more song from Kyle. After we read out the names, just to remind people, we are going to have some short closing remarks and make our way out to the monument. So we will deal with that now, but I know that Kyle's got another song prepared, and so I would ask for Kyle to take it away again. Thank you, Kyle.
I know the workplace is just needed this because John Lennon. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No heaven below us. Above us on the sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. Isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. And no religion too. Imagine all the people living for today. You may say I'm dreaming, but I'm not the only one. Someday I hope you'll join us, and the world will be as one. There's no possessions. I wonder if you die. No need to greet or honor. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people living again. You may say I'm dreaming, but I'm not the only one. Someday I hope you'll join us, and the world will live as
So it has come to the time in the ceremony where we read out some names. As I said earlier, there is some aspects of fortunateness in the idea that as we move forward through the years, we have less and less local names to read out. That doesn't mean that we didn't lose people on the job this year, so I ask you to keep those people who are nameless with regards to passing in the Hamilton area over the past few years, keep them in your thoughts as well. This year we had a special request to ring the bells. If you know that every year after we read out a name we have the ringing of the bell, this year Sister Sandy Anderson asked to do that honor, and the reason why is because her husband, Brother John Wood, died 50 years ago on the job to this year, and her father, Norval Long, died 59 years ago again on the job. So we would ask her, by all means, she has the bell over there, and she can certainly do it from there if she wishes. And so in a second, we will move over to the names. And I think it's probably appropriate at this point if everybody stood, please. So I'm going to read all the names first, and I'll read your 2 names at the end. Okay. Yeah, you do a quick bell after each one. Okay. So first, the names from West Ray. Brother John Thomas Bates, age 56. Brother Larry Arthur Bell, age 25. Brother Benny Joseph Benoit, age 42. Brother Wayne Michael Conway, age 38. Brother Ferris Todd Dewin, age 35. Brother Adonis J. Dolemont, age 36. Brother Robert Stephen Doyle, age 22. Brother Remy Joseph Drolet, age 38. Brother Roy Edward Feltmate, age 33. Brother Charles Robert Fraser, age 29. Brother Miles Daniel Gillis, age 32. Brother John Philip Halloran, age 33. Brother Randolph Brian House, age 27. Brother Trevor Martin Jean, age 36. Brother Lawrence Elwin James, age 34. Brother Eugene W. Johnson, age 33. Brother Stephen Paul Lilly, aged 40. Brother Michael Frederick McKay, age 38. Brother Angus Joseph McNeil, age 39. Brother Glenn David Martin, age 35. Brother Harry A. McCallum, age 41. Brother Eric Earl McIsaac, age 38. Brother George S. James Monroe, age 38. Brother Danny James Poplar, age 39. Brother Romeo Andrew Short, age 35. Brother Peter Francis Vickers, age 38. And for our sister ringing the bell, Brother John Wood and Brother Norville Long. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, sister. In a few minutes, we're going to be queuing up to head outside. Before we do that, there are some thank yous which should definitely happen. First of all, as was mentioned by Sister Harrison earlier, great thanks. The Hamilton District Labour Council has a committee which is probably the longest named committee we've ever had. It is called the Health and Safety WSIB Environment and Education Committee. We've combined a whole bunch into one. I like to call it the HNS WSIB E&E Committee. It is chaired by Sister Gillian Surrett Robinson, and a lot of them put great work every year into this, and a lot of last-minute work into this year because we had some snags along the way. So if we could show a quick appreciation to that committee who always puts their best foot forward. Secondly, when you go out today, many of you are familiar with Sister Joanne Webb, retired QP member. She is going to be doing a smudging out at the monument today, so any of you who wish to participate in that can certainly do that. Also, we have roses downstairs at the front door, so if you want to pick up a rose on the way out to take out to the monument with you, you can. You will be following our piper today, who is Doug Tulloch, who is going to be leading us out. What we will do is go out to the monument at some point. Everyone can lay their wreaths, and then we will have probably Doug play Amazing Grace and have a moment of silence after that out at the monument as well, which is kind of what we do as our standard thing. The last thing that I'd want to recognize, perhaps before we head out and before I get Kyle to play us out, first of all, thanks again, Brother Kyle, for providing some music to us today. He is going to play us out as we walk out. I told him not to be offended as we slowly make our way towards the doors as he's playing his last couple of songs. But lastly and not least, I would like to recognize the staff here at City Hall who are QP members who every year get us ready for this event and do a fantastic job. So thank you. After the ceremony outside, you're welcome to come back in downstairs. We have some beverages and some snacks. And as you make your way out, as quietly as possible, wait for the piper to lead us out. And a couple songs to get us out there. We'll get Kyle to start up again. I'll see you all outside if you can make it out there. And if not, I'll be happy to talk to you, and we can have some conversation downstairs afterwards. So thank you very much for coming, and we'll ask Kyle to lead us out.